Well, Saadat, thank you so much for helping with my project. Could we start off by having you talk a little bit about yourself? Who are you?
My name is Saadat Mirza. I am sort of semi-retired, but I still sort of keep myself busy. So I'm from the oil and gas industry, mostly subsea, offshore. That has been my experience for the last 20, 30 years now, I think. Okay. And at the moment, I'm teaching part-time in Texas A&M, again, subsea engineering and reliability and risk. And also I do some bits and pieces of work for the oil and gas industry, whatever there is left now. My background is what you call, I grew up in UK. My education is from the British universities, bachelor's and a PhD. And I worked in various fields, starting with robotics, cryogenics, hydrodynamics, then vortex-induced vibration, and then just project manage engineering in subsea infrastructure. Okay, so I'm slightly keen on what you call, let's put that way. Yeah. When I was working in industry, they didn't like my attitude. They told me you're too theoretical, or I said, no, I'm looking for the right answers. You have to be theoretical to look for the right answer, not the answer that you used the last time in your project. Okay. Things can be different from one project to another. Designs can be different. Okay. And what you call, let's not do cut and paste from the last project into this one. Okay, let's be original. And then, and it has been what you call, my experience has been what you call, it's not been vertical along one line, that is going up the ladder on the same ladder. I sort of went sideways a lot of time. Okay. Like cryogenics, robotics, hydrodynamics, vortex-induced vibration, risers, pipelines, engineering, project engineering. But it's just what you call, let's say, you like to learn. I mean, my philosophy is life is too short to know everything about everything. There's a lot of knowledge to be gained from the universe. It can be in biology, space technology, okay? It can be subsea, it can be human nature, okay? And of course, politics, history. My favorite part-time reading is books on history, okay, and travel. Yeah. So now I think that's a good startup. So perhaps you can fire away the first question.
Well, it's kind of interesting. So, what period of time most fascinates you in history?
I think the last 300 years. It is because it was the age of discovery, the age of rapid development. Okay, that is, if you think of it, how I think in the last 300-400 years, we have sort of exponentially progressed. In the last century, it's a super exponential progress in the development of science and technology. But having said that, what we are doing is, by relying too much on machines, we are forgetting the basic knowledge. In my days in school, what you call, we didn't have calculators. We had to do everything and by hand, adding, multiplication, okay, numbers. And so even nowadays, when I go to one of these, any shop, and we give them 3-4 items, and she goes to the till to see how much is total cost, I give her the total before she can do it on the till. And how do you know? I said, no, I know how to add mentally. Okay, so the main thing is, and the reason I don't like to retire and do nothing. You want to keep your mind working. Okay, and the main thing is good for your health, as long as the mind is active. So that's my philosophy. And the reason I'm saying, because, like we talk about age of discovery, we forget about the age before that, when what you call mankind moved from one continent to another. Okay, they didn't have any navigation tools. They found their ways. Okay, and I mean, this one of the things. I think it's an old article that we may have had a magnet in our nose, like the birds, to help us find the direction. And because, excuse me, we have stopped using it, so therefore it's disappeared. But I remember that there was a time, I grew up in Pakistan, my initial days, okay? We used to go to my uncle's village, and over there, of course, people didn't have any electricity in those days. I remember we were using transistors or lamps. And there was a little joke we used to play on one of the shopkeepers just down the road, because my cousins would tell me, go and ask him the time. And that guy, without a watch, he'll give you approximately what the time was of the day. Okay, just by looking at the sun. Okay, and it's quite fascinating. And like what you call nowadays, people tell us, oh, what does the computer say? And yet there are certain languages like Vietnamese, Balochi in my country, which were never written. These were languages, and history was passed from word of mouth. Okay. So people had a good memory capacity, if I want to call it. Okay. The memory storage was quite high in the human brain in those days, because there was no other means like reading or writing to store information. So the brain, let's say, the human brain, if used properly, can do a lot of things. Okay. And so it's only recently, I think the Vietnamese language, that's why Vietnamese language, they use the Latin script. They don't have their own script either. Okay. So, and it was a language which has history. It's not that they are uncivilized, uncultured. They have their own history. Balochi language, that's in Pakistan. It was never written language. And yet they have a history, traditions. Okay. So if you think of it, I mean, we always, in our part of the world, we always taught history of Alexander, who at the age of 33 was conquering half the world or a good part of the world at that time. And yet he knew how to find his way. Okay. And of course, in the last 300-400 years is because that's the age of navigation. And what you call, if you don't mind me saying, we always talk about Columbus discovering America, but no, other people had come to America before. Okay. And recently I was reading about the history of somebody called Musa, I forgot his name. 14th century, he sent out an expedition of ships from Senegal, Mauritania, to go west. And they came back and said, we found land. And he said, okay, let me take, he gave up his throne, gave it to his brother, and he set sail with about 300 ships or something like that. That's a big number, maybe. But he set sail with what you call ships to find these new lands, and took some animals with him. And they say most probably he had discovered Brazil, or somewhere on the north of where we have Colombia, Guyana, and northern part of Brazil. Okay, but there are no traces. There are traces. People find things. Okay, like artifacts, some old ruins, which are not made by the locals. So it's possible what you call other people were trading with the Americas. Like the Phoenicians were here from the Middle East, and that's about 200, 1,500 years BC. And they read ships because of course, if you want to read this guy, Eric von Däniken, who says chariots of God or something like that, that was God an astronaut and he created the human beings and gave them signs. I don't believe that. But the similarity in the design of pyramids of the Mayas and the Egyptians. So how come science was exchanged? Okay. So there are a lot of undiscovered things about the world that we tend to ignore or we don't want to know. Okay. And like the Celts or the Celtics, they're only left in Wales and Brittany and Scotland. But once upon a time, their empire extended somewhere into Asia as well, because they have discovered mummies of people in the Xinjiang desert, Europe, who had European features, and they had what we call ginger hair, orange hair. So people were traveling far and wide, but yet some of them recorded their what you call travels. Others were lost in history, in time. Okay, so I think I've taken a lot of your time. Go ahead. Sorry, what was your first question now?
No, I think you're touching on a very interesting and important topic that I've kind of touched on as a course of thinking about this interview. You you were- you were talking about how several things. One is like the age of discovery, the last 300 years after that, where we had this rapid technological development. And you
Yeah,
also touched on the fact that we are not challenging the human mind to develop to the full extent that we used to challenge it to, and
yeah,
that you see evidence of this in everyday life.
yeah.
And you know, I find this kind of troubling phenomenon that I see as well. And I feel like that, over the past, like before the last 30 years,
Mm-hmm.
most
Okay.
of the technology was inspectable in the sense
Yeah,
that you build a steam engine,
yeah,
somebody could take that apart and see it and understand the principles of it and modify it. Or you
correct.
build a gasoline engine, you
Yeah,
understand how the car and everything works. But, in the past, say 30, 40 years, we've really moved more to technology that's not uh, possible to decompose and to really inspect and to modify. It's a whole
yeah,
bunch of black isolated block boxes that either it works or it
yeah,
doesn't work.
yeah. Circuit boards and chips.
Circuit boards and chips with code inside it that you can't
Yeah,
even look at. You
yeah,
can't understand how it works. You
yeah,
can't learn from it. Either it works and you use it, or it breaks and you don't. And
yeah,
it seems like more and more of our technology is getting into that area.
yeah. If it breaks, don't bother to repair it. Get a new one. And what's happening? We are increasing the electronic waste in this world. Okay, and we need to work out ways. How do we recycle it? I mean, I'm also into green theory, by the way, because um, the resources are finite in the world. And so we have to manage them properly. Okay, because if, I mean, even though I'm from what they call the oil and gas industry, but again, um, what you call it is the greed of making profits overnight. That's what's driving the world economy. Okay. And some people, of course, there's some very nice people in this world as well who care about the others. There, that is um, helping each other. And we see it always um, especially in Houston and Texas, whenever there's a hurricane, people come out to help each other. So that human nature of kindness is still there. And my observation is maybe it's to do with simplicity in life. If your life is oriented to more towards use of machine and automation, you forget the human touch. I don't know. That's what I observe.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly. You lose when everything is mediated and you don't have that hands-on interaction
hands
with
on. Yeah,
the world, then it becomes
yeah,
difficult.
yeah.
Now, you
And
talked about a whole wide range of things that you were in, like robotics and cryogenics and industrial engineering and what have you. Um, do you get an opportunity to work on those things hands-on, or is it mainly designing it and um, kind of providing information and uh, at what level do you get to interact with it?
actually, there's a time when you graduate, you are asked to do design and follow the last vertical design manual, so on and so forth. But over the past 10, 15 years, I've gone more into um, management, risk management. Why things break? How can I stop them from breaking? Okay. And yes, coming from experience, after you have spent some time in the design office, the desktop, it's always a good idea to go and work on with your hands on, okay, in the yard, in the fabrication yard or the installation. Things are different, okay, and you learn a lot. And of course, what happens is you can see the true application of the theory of your physics and mathematics when you go and do it yourself. This is happening because that's what the equation says. Mass is equal, force is equal to mass time acceleration. Okay, momentum. Okay, so I have one of the pictures I showed as a safety. I always have a safety moment at the beginning of my lecture. And one of the pictures I showed was of a steam engine going to the wall of a station in Paris, 1890. Okay, because of the momentum of that huge beast, he could not stop in time.
Mm.
Okay, so this is basically momentum theory, nothing else. So, and there's an example I gave. I can't show you the video. I don't know where it is now. It's a cat. And it's a small video on YouTube. It's a cat sitting on a car, and the car bonnet is covered with ice. Sorry, snow. Okay, and the cat is looking at the roof of a barn in front of it, and wants to jump. Okay, from the bonnet of the car onto the roof. It tries to. It falls down. And my question to my students is why? Cats are supposed to have very strong hind legs. Okay, and the simple answer is it's sitting on ice, sorry, snow. Therefore, the ground is not rigid; it's flexible. So even though the cat is trying to push onto the snow with the hind legs to get the lift, okay, but of course, the snow is not rigid surface; it's a compliant or a flexible surface. That's why he didn't get the push to go up. That's why he fell down short of the roof. Okay, simple. It's a simple question of answer is physics, nothing else. The what you call the impulse from the ground was not there. It's snow. It's flexible, not rigid. And so the thing that I've been working on since 1990, it's called what you call resist vibration of compliant cylinders which flex when there's a force on it. And it's if you sit in the window seat of your uh, airliner, okay, if you look at the wings, if you're near to the wing, you'll see the wings tips are flexing while it's flying through the air. It's not going to break. It's a good thing it's flexing. If you didn't, it will snap off. Okay, so it's basic fundamental of physics. Okay, nothing else. If it's rigid, it tries to resist the force on it, it will snap off because it is called working with the actual force acting on it and deflecting. Trees deflect when there's strong wind, don't they? They don't want to oppose the force of nature. Okay, they work with it. That's why not all of them break.
And I think in terms of what's been done in like Japan with buildings, in terms of making them more compliant.
Compliant, yeah, yeah. That's about not rigid but compliant, and that's the thing we work on for offshore structures and risers. Risers the pipe is coming from the seabed to the surface to make it compliant and not rigid. Let it flex with the force and not break. Okay, the force being the force of water. I mean, people are what you call. We had Laura. It caused complete devastation in Lake Charles area. Okay, in Pakistan they have huge amounts of floods. And I said the whole thing is you have to work with nature. You can't stop nature. You couldn't stop Laura coming in. Can you? No way. Uh, there was uh, if you recall, Nathan, we had Rita or Katrina those days. When Rita was coming, somebody said, why don't we put an A bomb? We can deflect it sideways. No, there's so much energy in that hurricane Rita. it could provide power to the whole of USA for 1 year. Okay, there's so much energy within that hurricane. Okay, you can't fight nature. You have to live with nature. So, and so we can take this theory to you fly to the moon as well, isn't it? You have to live with gravity force, the gravitational pull, isn't it? Uh, what you call, what is that? I'm forgetting the name of the equation where you have to provide this force and the escape velocity of a rotating body so it can take off what you call from the effect of gravity and shoot towards the moon, maybe, isn't it? The escape velocity, as they call it. Yeah. So anyway, we're going away from the topic.
I
What
did
was it?
have some questions for you. Uh, so over the past 300 years, we've had a phenomenal technological development. I mean, pretty much all of the risks from natural causes. I mean, even hurricanes were able to recover from them very quickly and
Yeah,
to observe them. But all the risk that we used to have in terms of like famine and in terms of not having enough shelter and water and all those, it seems like from a technological point of view that we have the solutions, right?
yeah,
I think we literally could feed every person in the world. We could literally get every person in the world some water. And
yep,
we have some sociological
yep,
problems that we haven't sorted through. But the
yep,
technological problems we have.
yep.
So over the past 300 years, we've had this huge development. What do you think caused the past 300 years to be different than the previous 300 years? And I mean, why at this point in history? I mean, what I mean, why aren't we out in huts right now, hunting and gathering instead of talking over these magic boxes that allow for us to see each other?
Yeah. I'm not against religion. I'm a Muslim. You're a Christian. There was in the last 500 years, um, even in Islam, in 11th, 12th century, they had free thought, okay, to question, okay, and therefore a thinking mind, as opposed to some of the uh, what you call rigid pronunciations of the religion, okay. We had what you call Catholicism and Protestants. Maybe the free thought came there because even when Galileo's threw those stones down from the Tower of Pizza, the guy says, no, our eyes are being deceived. It's not true what we are seeing. Okay. So it is, let's say, the thinking mind to question something. Okay. And not to accept something in the face value. And it's the same sort of logic sometimes I applied at my project, not to accept what the contractor has given you as a design report. It may be right. You can sign it off. On a face value, it may look right, but he may have omitted some of the key factors. Or so in we in my line of work, and I think even NASA would have it. We have what you call is the um, we had the FAMICA, failure mode and effect and criticality analysis. And in fact, that philosophy, if I recall reading a book, that only came about after the first disaster of the space shuttle. I think what was it, 1988?
86.
86. Okay. They didn't have any of those, what you call, um, uh, what's it, the right to challenge your boss. They didn't have that philosophy. Okay. So we call it 360 degrees. Even today, some of the bosses don't like it if you question them. Sir, it's a wrong decision. You know what they come back and say? He doesn't know how to work as a team. Get rid of him. Okay. So the and in some companies, I won't say loudly because it's being recorded, have got good bosses who will accept a challenge and understand it. Why is he asking this? Investigate. Okay. So the challenge to traditional values was not allowed, maybe, or challenge to traditional science was not entertained 400, 500 years ago. Okay. So, I mean, back in old India, 1556 or something like that, Emperor Akbar, he was a Muslim, but he had married a Hindu lady. Okay. And he used to, he called in, the Jesuits had arrived in Goa. The Muslims were there, the local population was Hindu. Okay. There's some Jews as well. He would call all of them for a discussion. What is God? Okay. And in some cases, they said, no, we are going too far. Let's stop it here. Okay. In others, and after all his little, what you call, let's say, a discussion gathering to have a discussion. Okay. He came to the conclusion, I shall invent my own religion. Okay. Which didn't last long, of course. Only he started, but it disappeared after he died. Okay. So, uh, so the thing is, the even today, some of the religious people have got a rigid mind. They don't want to, what you call, understand. I mean, like um, the Bible and the Quran was written in the days which was based on the understanding of common man of those days. The people of those days didn't understand E is equal to mc square, did they? Neither did they understand F is equal to ma. Okay, so it was something it was written in a wording so they could understand and relate to the world around them. So what you call at the moment, as I mentioned earlier, the world is too large and the knowledge is too vast, and the life is limited for me to acquire all that knowledge. Okay, there's so much to learn from all fields of sciences, arts, okay, philosophy, but the life is too short for that. Okay, a lot of things written in old books and in the holy scriptures that we don't understand.
Now,
And yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say that it's not just religious thinking that can be inflexible,
Yeah.
but even in like, and you're talking about institutions where you have, um, maybe leadership with old or incomplete ideas that are unwilling to adapt to newer and maybe better ideas. And this
Yes. Yeah.
this is true in a lot of institutions. I mean, I think. Einstein, when he came up with E equals mc squared, he was working as a patent examiner. He wasn't like a physics professor. He was not
No.
inside of the,
Yeah.
uh, the institutions. But
Institutions,
so
right?
so many people have to defend their ideas to people who are invested in the old ideas and who can be the gatekeepers to for them. So I'm just wondering if this kind of creates a headwind or maybe some type of fragility or restraint on our ability to continue exploring new areas.
Yeah. It is a constraint. Yeah. And as I mentioned, that has been my experience in industry as well. That new ideas are sometimes, or ideas which are different from what they're used to, are not entertained. That's a way of working as well. Okay. And that is procedures. Okay. And that's the reason, one of the reasons I got into reliability of subsea systems is because, and I was impressed by the people, because we used to have workshops. People sit together. I'm making this thing. What can go wrong with it? That's even before you put it on the paper or design it. And you do it through, we had 5 gates. Think of the idea, put it on paper, design it, make it. So, and operate it. Okay. So at each point, this Famica and risk matrix is established at the beginning. So the question is asked, what can go wrong with it? Okay. And that way, when you discuss, then you say, yes, I must try this out for this material before I use it. And surprisingly, sometimes the chairman or the chairperson, I should call it, because I don't want to be sexist, okay? The chairperson had no knowledge of the, what you call, branch of science or engineering he was holding a FMICA on. That is, if you're doing about offshore installation of tension-led platform, he had no idea of hydrodynamics or structure or installation procedures, but he knew how to ask the right questions. And that made all the difference. Okay. Even though the questions may be stupid, but he knew how to ask you would say, oh, why is he sitting there? He doesn't know what a TLP is. But no, that's how we develop what you call failure modes. What can go wrong? Okay. And how do we mitigate the risk of that thing and stop it from going wrong? And that's what you call, it's one of those. And as you go deeper into space, I was about to say, which I'll say later on, the systems we are trying to send up there are becoming very complex and complicated. Sometimes in my what you call line of work, offshore engineering, we're making flexible pipes with different type of layers. If you test the material, so we had 3 stages. Material testing, just a piece of wire, okay, how flexible it is. Then making a piece of wire into a headphone, okay. So there is component testing. And then we do a system testing, putting the piece of wire in my ear and trying to speak. And the material may work, components may be fixed together properly, or they may come off, we'll improve it. But plugging it in, it's stuck. The mouthpiece is far away, okay? System is not working.
Mm.
And the classic example is what you call, I teach my students, it's about the American AVAC system. Okay, in 1986 or something like that, the British government had a choice to buy the American AVAC system or to make their own GE system, Nimrod. Okay, and the Nimrod failed, and the AVAX won the competition. Of course, it was a political decision or something like that. Who cares? But no, one of the engineers told me who worked on the project. He says, we had a very good radar, just like the AVAX radar. We put it together. It worked very well. But it worked very well in the laboratory conditions. We put it into the fuselage of the aircraft. The cross-section area of the Nimrod was much smaller than the Boeing 707. And being confined spaces, small cross-section area, the heat was not being dissipated properly. The electronic equipment of those days getting overheated didn't function properly. And therefore the system failed. Simple as that. Okay, heat dissipation. Nothing more than that. They couldn't dissipate the heat properly. Because in those days we had these plate fins, heat exchangers, if you recall them, metallic, maybe they were before your time, aluminum, something like that. So they would dissipate the heat from your box into the environment, okay? So sometimes component level and material level, it was working, but at the system level, it failed. Same thing, what you call when that, what was it? The Challenger or the one in 86?
86 was Challenger.
Yeah, it was basically the seal between the different sections had a leak. That was all. Because nobody thought of that it is exposed to such a high temperature and stresses because the rocket is going up like that. So it is suffering, and it's not straight flight like that. It's vibration, isn't it? There's some lateral vibrations, isn't it? And
It's a really difficult environment, but the Challenger was launched on on the coldest day that any shuttle had been launched, and the
okay,
O-rings were so they
brittle.
were expected to heat up and expand and fill that joint, but because they were cold,
It,
there was
it,
the leak.
yeah, it's just like the old Liberty ships in World War II. They worked very well. But as soon as they went into the North Atlantic near Iceland, they started cracking up
Hmm.
because the steel that was being used was ductile at above 4 degrees centigrade, maybe below 4 or 0 degrees centigrade. It was brittle
Hmm.
to crack up. Simple as that, okay? Because of the environment change. So, yes, the O rings may have been brittle at cold temperature, but ductile at slightly elevated temperature. Okay, and it's what name? You mentioned one of the things we used to play with in cryogenics when I was doing my cryogenics. It was basically we used to put these rubber tubes, very flexible, into liquid nitrogen, take them out, and just put them on the table and bang, hundreds of pieces. It's
Yeah.
so brittle, it didn't crack. And the other thing we played was what you call, uh, little polystyrene cups you have for drinking your coffee at office. Okay, we used to tie them to the ROV, which is a remotely operated vehicle, because it go down to 2,000 meters. And those cups, if they were that big, by the time they went there, they became that small.
Wow.
So the thing that I wanted to talk about, which I haven't, I've been here already 40 minutes. Sorry about that.
No
Is the
trouble.
sophistication of your technology that you have for space travel. We have the same sort of advanced technology for subsea work. We have to go and work in 2,000 meters of water depth. Okay. We have to land equipment, which should have an error of only a few meters, only less than meters. Okay. So it lands, so different components land on one top of the other. We have acoustic sensors, which are actually guiding us that we are going the right direction. And then we have what you call AUV, like subsea drones, which go and map the seabed in 3D, and you get these beautiful pictures. Nowadays, some of these majors have got a 3D, what you call, what's the word they use? It's a 3D map of the reservoir, and they can tell where to put the drill in to get oil out. So the subsea technology that we have is as sophisticated as what you use in NASA, and yet people don't know about it. Now, yes, one of the things I want to mention, which is always we are going to go for Moon and Mars, but we haven't explored the seabed, the bottom of the sea, and the sea covers 70% of the world, doesn't it? But we don't know what's down there. Even today, I would have shown you a video. We had come across creatures about 1,000, 2,000 meters, which were never recorded before. Okay, that is, nobody knew that such creatures lived in the deep water. In some cases, and if you think of it, those creatures are living under, I mean, if you go into space, you have to maintain the pressure inside. You don't want to bust out, okay? When you go deep water, you have to resist the pressure from outside because things can just collapse, okay? So, and we have problems, what you call, I mean, safety is the main thing. That's why sometimes the things that we make are very expensive, what you call. So, but now, of course, the exploration oil industry is down, so we're not putting any more money. And one of the things, as part of my brief in Texas A&M, is to see, because we're not going to explore for oil anymore, or not that much. What else can we do with the subsea technology that we have developed? Exploration, uh, subsea, tidal generation, okay? Because if you think of it, the density of air and the density of water, if your wind turbine that you have in a Texas coastline is about 20 meters in diameter to produce some kilowatts of energy, you can have that sort of tidal current turbine at only 1 meter of uh, diameter to produce the same amount of energy, or maybe 2 meters, okay? So the size, because the density of water is much higher than the density of air. Simple as that, okay? We need that lift to turn the propeller around, okay? So one of the projects we are doing is actually looking at tidal current generation. We're not go and then the other thing, it's a government project we're going to apply for. Hopefully we get it. We are developing these huge windmills for the Northeast, 15 megawatts, okay? Yet the people who are going to install these or who are making them, they've got no idea how to install subsea structures, foundations, okay? Because some of the, in old times, the North Sea, a lot of what you call innovation was done. We have these, what they call crane barges, twin cranes, and it's like that, two cranes will lift 10,000 tons like that from a vessel and put it down like that, okay? So that was really on gigantic scale. If you look at them now, they're huge vessels that two cranes can lift 10,000 tons in one go. That's a lot. And even this, for some of these 15 megawatt wind turbines, we think the foundation will be about 2,000 tons in weight. It's a lot of, it's maybe a size of a small scale Coast Guard vessel or a destroyer, light frigate. And so that's a sort of thing. We'll take it on a, let's see, that's my barge. We put it like that, take it offshore, take a crane, maybe pick it up like that, 2,000 tons, maybe 40 meters, take it to the side, lower it to the seabed, and then hammer it like simple hammer and nail to the seabed. So that's quite sophisticated technology that we have developed in offshore industry. Okay, so maybe some other time, if you give me, if there's an opportunity, or I can give you small lecture on the equivalence of the technology for space to the technology we use for subsea work, underwater work.
That would be fantastic. Maybe
Yeah.
even if you are up to it, maybe at one of our North Houston Space Society meetings.
Yeah, sure. But I'll need to just collect some videos and YouTube videos. And because now there's some quite good YouTube videos available. Okay, of course you can't download them, but maybe. So I can give you a lecture on the equivalence. I mean, you guys are going to space. I'm trying to go underwater. I'm not running away from you, but I'm learning from you. Because the first theory, the project which I did in 1984, just after graduation, 84, 86, yeah. Which was hydrodynamics of ships maneuvering in harbors. And where did we take the theory from? From McDonnell Douglas aircraft theory. The loading on a fuselage or loading, fluid loading on a body of revolution. Okay. The only difference is in aircraft, in aerospace science, you don't have any air-sea interface. We have this problem, air and sea, because half the body is outside the water, half the body is underwater. A body of revolution could be a ship. Okay, so and that causes the problem in our hydrodynamics. Okay, the air-sea interface. Okay, so but we borrowed the theory from McDonnell Douglas of fluid loading on cylindrical structures. Okay, so and so there is some what you call source panel method that you use for loading on a fuselage, vortex shedding to get the lift from the wing keel. Remember, the America's Cup race and the New Zealand 1 and 2, it came with the keel with the wings on it. Okay.
Hmm.
California, and there's a hue and cry, you're cheating. Okay. What did they do? They borrowed from the small winglets that you have at the tip of aircraft wings. Okay. Now the aircraft wings have borrowed their theory to get additional lift and save on energy, isn't it? But they borrowed from the aerospace or the aircraft industry to put those wing keels. And now everybody's putting wing keels of one manner or other. I wrote, my first paper was on wing keel, in fact, in 1986 on a yacht, putting what's the loading on the wing keel of a yacht. I don't know the program. It's in the South Indian University. Okay, basically uh, getting a lift from the vortex shedding. And one of the projects that I'm asking a student to do, I don't think he can do it. You know the sperm whale, the largest whale, is the sperm or the blue whale? Okay, the largest whale, killer whale, what is it? It's not the blue, the killer whale. If you look at its body is more what you call oval in the horizontal direction. Okay, so and when it moves forward, if you think of it, it purposes like that. Okay, where the shark will purpose sideways. In both cases, they're shedding vortices to get the lift. Okay, and excuse me, and what you call so asked him, we could do that, what you call, do that simulation of a small AUV, a subsea drone, made in the shape of this giant whale. Okay, and we also know that the skin of the whale has got ribs on it. It's not very smooth. It's got little undulation. That also reduces drag, okay, on the body, and therefore it can go forward. So some theories from nature we can borrow to improve our what you call motive power for subsea vessels or underwater drones. I call them AUVs. I call them underwater drones. Okay, and if you think of it, I mean these birds, um, some of these migratory birds, they fly from one end of the world to the other. And how do they do it? And this guy who used to be in hang, what you call gliding, he told me that, oh, it's a very nice day in Southern University. I'm going out. Where? I'm going for my gliding, what you call. And how do you know it's good weather? He says, look at that cloud formation. It's called a thermal. Hot air is rising. I'll just put my glider in the hot air and it will go up to the top and come in. He says, that's what these migratory birds do. We can't see it. They know where the thermal is. They go into one thermal, go up, which sort of throws them away at the top, and then they go to the next thermal, and that's how they cross the Atlantic. Okay, so they have the sense to look for a thermal, no infrared. Okay, I don't know. Their eyes do it. Their magnet does it. Okay, and like the animals, excuse me, uh, uh, the animals have got a sixth sense, as we call it, to know when a storm is coming or when a earthquake is coming. Okay, and what do they say? They say maybe it's the vibration. They can sense some vibration in nature that we can't. Maybe we could have. We used to do it, but we lost that sense nowadays. So that's how they sense some sort of electromagnetic vibrations. I don't know, something like that. I read. I don't recall the full article, but they can sense some vibrations. Okay, which warns them that something, a danger is impending. Okay, the sixth sense, as we call it. Nathan, I've taken 15 minutes of your time. I think I can go on, but anyway, what's your next question?
Um, okay. Well, I mean, one interesting point is uh, the rapid development that SpaceX has had versus some of the more traditional players like Lockheed and Boeing. I think one of the reasons for this is over at Lockheed and Boeing, they have a setup that's fairly common where you have engineers in air-conditioned offices that come up with their designs. They send them halfway across the country to technicians that attempt to build things based upon that design. Then they get results back,
Based.
some virtually,
Yeah.
and they're like, how come you built it this way? And the technician's like, well, this is what you told me, and what have you. But at SpaceX, what I understand is they have these pods set up where you have the engineer that's literally just a few feet away from the technician. And, the technician can look over the engineer's shoulder and say, we really can't do that. Would you consider this? And the engineer is able to look at what the technician's doing and saying, well, it's really supposed to be like this and not like that, what have you. And
Okay,
I
that's a
was
good
just
point.
wondering what you thought about that setup.
No, that's a good one. What you call, like when we do the gate development, feed front end engineering, and then I used to work what they call EPCI contracts, engineering, procurement, construction, installation. That's a full phase from initial concept to ready to start operating. And one of the things we identified during feed was we don't have anybody from the operations to sit on the team, because we may give and something design something for them which they find difficult to operate. Okay, so then we got a operations person to sit on the initial design phases as well, because he's got to operate at the end of the day. Okay, and sometimes it's happened telling you about the traditional what you call traditional thought as opposed to collaborative thought in industry, that sometimes they would make something which will have a what you call working life of 2 months or 3 months or 1 year. And I would say, why are we supplying this to the operations? It will cause problem. You know what the manager said? That's his problem. I just want to give him a product. That's
Wow.
my target is delivery of first oil on that day, full stop. I don't care. So that mentality is still there in the industry. You need to give something which will work for the time it's designed for. And he said to me, that's their problem, not mine. Come off it, man. Okay. So there are people like that in industry, which are bad news, as they say, for industry. No, but to some extent, I do not actually fully agree with that. I'll tell you why. Technique, which is one of the big companies down the road on kit, they used to make something called a spar. Spar is like a huge cylinder, about 500 feet long, okay, or maybe 20,000, 10,000 tons, okay. BP has ordered the spar in USA. The spar is fabricated in Finland, okay. Technique's design team still is in Houston, okay. But they had interface every day, 24 hours, through the engineering drawings, AutoCAD or real time, to ensure whatever they're making, or if they have problems, they can talk to the engineers, okay. So yes, we have done things where different teams were sitting in different sites all over the world, okay, and it worked. But yes, the culture should be there, the mentality should be there. Like nowadays, we're doing online what you call um, working, working from home. And when I first suggested to my colleagues 10 years ago, 5 years ago, it won't work, go away. Now everybody's doing it. I said, we spent 3 hours on the road. And one of my colleagues said, because he used to travel about 30 miles, 40 miles in London, England to Reading, he says, he told my managers, you talk about safety. Oh, you know what was a major safety concern they had? You should hold the handrail while coming up the staircase. Okay? And people will check if you're not holding. He says, Doddles, I am driving 50 miles every day, or 100 miles, 50 miles each way, 40 miles, something like that. I have to go through the worst traffic in London, and that's the most unsafe thing I do, and yet you don't have any concern for it. He said, what are your priorities? And he had a point. So driving, Houston has become bad for driving in the last 10 years. If we can avoid, it's not that, of course, some of the industry I work for, oil and gas, they don't like it, but they have to live with it now. Um, if you can avoid travel time, it's a lot, 1.5 hour of your life every day, or 2 hours rather, what you call, why not make use of it? I mean, I'm not saying I work all the time from home, 3 days a week from home, 2 days a week in the office. I need to see my colleagues, see their face, exchange some other ideas. Okay. But now they've agreed, well, they have realized that this culture, we have to make it work. But ours for this type of work environment or work ethics, 5 years, 10 years ago, and my manager did agree with me. I said, I don't need to be here. These things I can do from home. Why am I wasting my time on the road and get frustrated and stressed? Okay, but yes, but in some cases, yes, sitting side by side in a teamwork, that's a buzzword. Okay, but the main thing is that sort of culture will work if the engineer has got this attitude, or that I'll listen to you, Mr. Technician. Okay, you may have ideas, and not the other sort of mental attitude. I'm the engineer, you are the technician, listen to me. Okay, some people still have that attitude. I'm the boss, you're not. So it's called, there's a very good picture I showed my colleagues, teamwork. What is a boss? Boss is sitting in a cart, and the rest of the team is pulling that cart. He's ordering, okay? And teamwork is where the boss joins the rest of the team to pull the cart.
Hmm.
It's a cartoon, little cartoon I show. Okay, I said you should have that second attitude when you work in an industry, to help others. Okay, what you call, mm, while working in a team, to work like them and with them, even though they might be your juniors or something like that. Nathan, I've
There's that
taken 1 hour of your time now.
there's that phrase, servant leader.
Servant leader, correct, exactly. Okay. Yeah.
Um, well, I did have more questions. I didn't know if you have more time though.
Go ahead. But I mean, I don't want to bore your audience with the 1 hour of lecturing. Okay.
Well,
So,
my audience is doesn't hasn't been born yet. My audience is you know, people looking at this 50 years, 100 years from now,
okay.
getting an idea in terms of
Okay. So you want to be, yes, save it for them. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead. What's the next question?
next question is, do you think the next 300 years will be like the past 300 years in terms of will technology development continue, or is there some kind of bottlenecks or some erosion in our ability to innovate that you see happening, that, or do you see us speeding up? I mean, what do you think the next 300 years is going to look like compared to the past 300?
Okay. My simple answer for the next 300 years is technology will develop, but we should not let machines take over mind. Man versus machine. Okay. We should not let machines take over our work completely and be the arbiter of what should be done completely. Okay, that's my philosophy. We may call it what you call backward or, but again, as we mentioned earlier, reliance on machines and technology. Good thing, it will help us, but we should understand what the intelligent machine is trying to do for us.
Hmm.
Okay, if it's doing something wrong, reprogram it.
But it seems to me that we're setting up the way people are interacting with machines, the way people get trained in schools, the way people are able to live their lives, kind of like the forces that are operating on them, inevitably lead to them relying on the machines blindly. And I mean, do you see anything that will keep that from happening?
Well, I think interaction between human beings, like you and me sitting together face to face, it should be encouraged more than just relying on what you call Zoom meetings and writing on blogs. Okay. I tell people, so the people who actually write all those nasty things about you on cyberspace, They cannot say those things in front of you. Brave in cyberspace. You should not be relying on cyberspace to convince others only. It should be face to face. So, face to face, I mean, we were encouraged in our company to do more of face mail than emails. Go and see the person while he's there, okay? Rather than send an email, face mail. So, I think human interaction should be encouraged, even though we're having all these technological developments, okay? Meeting people. Try locking yourself. I mean, they have this what you call solitary confinement. People go crazy. It's a mental death of someone to put somebody in solitary confinement. Even for, I have lived in what they call, um, I was stranded in a country called Romania as a young man. Didn't know anything about anything. I had to live in a room on my own for 1 month with nobody around. Even though I was allowed to go out, but there was nobody there. I couldn't communicate. That can drive you crazy.
And you
Living.
know, that's why I created this project because I've been working from home for 2 years.
Uh,
And last December, I got this idea that I would go and interview with a person at like Starbucks or at the mall or what have you, face to face, one person a day.
mhm.
And you know, as like getting out there and actually interacting with real human beings at
Real
least
human.
once a day.
Yeah. You'll find, Nathan, as we grow old, that as we grow old, we tend to lose human touch. People don't have time for us anymore. And you'll see, I mean, it's not over here, but in UK, in London, where I used to be, you'd find old men sitting at the bench in the city center. And if you walk past them, they like to talk to you. They got nobody to talk to. They tell you stories about their life. And I would give them 5 minutes of my time now and then, just to make them happy.
I
So
think whenever we can travel again, maybe I'll go there for a month and then I can do 30 days of this there.
yeah, but go to the town center or any village, and you'll find more in the villages and small towns. In the city center, they're sitting on the benches. Okay, in Italy, they call it quattro chiacchiere. That is four talk. If you translate it, four talks. Basically, it's a bench or two benches outside the just outside the village, where all the old women of the village gather together in the evening and talk gossip. Quattro chiacchiere. That is four talks if you translate it into literally, but gossip. But basically, they wanted to, they, and that's why they're more, what you call, in old age, they're more, they have a good society for old age people. In fact, the other thing, I was in Italy for 8 years. That's why I know all these stories. So um, um, that once upon a time, what you call, it's a song that a young man would take his old father for a walk to the river. And the father would said to the young boy or young son, I know why you're taking me there. You're going to push me into the river because I'm getting old. I'm becoming a burden. You'll push me into the river. So he got so much touched by that, and there's a song was written. But that was done in those days. Maybe it's a fairy tale only or a fable that as people got old, their use to society was not there, and they were pushed into the river.
Mm.
Okay, so that's why old age cannot be sometimes cannot be that friendly, exciting. I don't know. That's why I keep myself busy reading books or what you call watching some silly films on the TV. My wife sometimes doesn't like me because I watch films from Spain, from Korea, from Argentina, from Italy. She asked me, why don't you watch English film? What do you understand? I said, nothing. Just look at their life, their culture. That's all. And it's the same, how human beings behave. Okay. Anyway, next question.
And so, do you think, like in the next 500 years, that humanity will actually expand out beyond the Earth and actually have settlements on the moon, on Mars, other places, or do you think we'll still be largely just on Earth, making little bitty trips to these places?
Well, besides thinking of going to the moon and the Mars, they should also think of making underwater cities. Go subsea.
And that'd be brilliant from a radiation protection standpoint, right? Because you
And
have all
protection.
that water ahead of you, by the top of you.
Yeah, but what name? Uh, can we go? But if you think of it, traveling through the space is just like traveling in a submarine underwater, confined spaces, all darkness, isn't it?
Mhm.
So if one can get used to one, I'm slightly claustrophobic. That's why I prefer to stay on Earth and in open spaces. Okay. So no, but yes, people will be traveling to other planets. Okay. But again, some aspects of science we have to overcome. Like, I mean, they're testing nowadays 3 months. What is it? What's the longest stay in this what you call space station?
I think
1 year.
about a year.
1 year. Yeah. So how does the human body behave? Maybe human beings will become semi-robots, so they can survive in space or space travel. Okay, and um, but again, um, the speed of light, is it the limit of speed of the what you call, or is there something beyond that? I think that's the next challenge, isn't it? Can we go faster than the speed of light? So, and that way we can get to Mars quite easily.
Well, and we were talking about all the knowledge here on the Earth, and there's like some more than we can understand.
Correct.
But it was largely developed from people that lived with a 24-hour day, that lived with a 1G gravity, that lived with one atmosphere of pressure.
Correct.
It was all developed in, with inside of those same physical constraints. I wonder when we start observing the universe from places where the day is a different length, where the gravity is a different force, where the atmosphere is, different, and we start comparing observations, if some things that we're not even aware of, like you're talking about those senses that these birds had in terms of being able to, or that humans had in terms of being able to figure out the direction, but we no longer have that because we have our GPS phone and what have
Yeah.
you. Maybe we start becoming aware of things that are completely invisible to us now as a result of observing.
Observation. Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right. What you mentioned, the um, environment or the parameters that we lived under, one atmosphere, 1G gravity, and sunlight. Okay. If they were different, would we be different? Maybe we will evolve into something else. Okay. So who knows? There's a point. Evolution, that like animals have evolved, but then again, it becomes a law of jungle, the survival of the fittest. Okay. So, but yes, I agree with you. Maybe the parameters under which the science was developed, the laws of physics were developed, can they be something else? Interesting question.
And okay, so maybe this would be the last question. If it were safe and affordable, would you go to space?
I like Mother Earth. I mean, maybe a giant spaceship, but not in the confined space of a, what you call, what's the name of a, like an Apollo or a Soyuz spacecraft. That's too small to sit in for such a long time.
But how about for like a day trip, suborbital flight, or maybe a week trip in orbit, or maybe a 2-week trip to the moon and back?
You know something? Um, Now we're touching on it. The science of spacecraft should be different. Why do you want to send things up straight? Why not give them a spin and shoot them out? Why not put them on the back of a 747, go as high as you can, and then launch your small type of shuttle spaceship? Okay. One thing I like about the SpaceX is the rocket can land back on the Earth. That's the best development they have done. Okay, it's not a waste of structure. Okay, you can bring it back. So, but again, um, the last mission where they had to bring the people back by parachute into the Atlantic, that's still old technology. That's not new. Okay. Why can't why can't we, instead of dropping back into this atmosphere, why can't we go around the atmosphere, slowly glide back into this what you call well, onto the Earth, in fact, glide back by taking a lot of spins around the world, around the globe. Okay, you see my point?
Hmm.
Going up slowly and then coming down like a spiral. I don't know.
Well,
So,
you'd be interesting, might be interested to know there is a company called, I think, Spin Space that's using a giant centrifuge to try to kind of throw things into orbit. And there's also another company called Virgin Orbit that's actually using a 747 to launch satellites.
mini shuttle. Okay.
But you know, the Pegasus also is another vehicle that was
Yeah.
there to launch off of a 747. But that is interesting about, you know, is it possible to slow down slowly without the need for such a heat shield, um, you know, when returning?
The heat is happening because of friction. The density of the atmosphere is slowly increasing, isn't it? It's slowly gliding into it. And the space shuttle used to do that, in fact, didn't it? Glide back into the dense atmosphere. And that's how the heat was generated. And do we have some cryogenic shield that while it's being heated, it's being cooled as well by liquid nitrogen, slowly emitting? Nah, it can fail. So, I mean, how else can you don't want the gravity to pull you directly, drop, okay? But does the space shuttle, does it used to spin around the Earth before it entered the atmosphere, or it just came directly down?
Well, in order to be in orbit, you know, you have to be going fast enough that you keep falling around the Earth. So that
Oh,
means the International Space Station and Space Shuttle are going around the Earth every 90 minutes because they're about 200 miles up. Uh,
every
that's
90
why
minutes?
hmm,
That's a lot of speed.
it's a lot of speed, and so they have to slow that down. And so they use the atmosphere as like a big air brake, but in the process, you have the compression and the heat.
You can use retro rockets to slow down your speed.
You can, but then you have to carry the fuel up there, and
Fuels. Solar. There you are, battery powered retro rockets. Let's make them with solar panels.
sure. But I guess the question is, uh, you know, the problem is how can you still have to have something to throw, um, you know, so and I mean they have like these xenon and these uh, you know these solar uh, engines, they still shoot out like protons, right?
Okay. To,
Um,
to reduce the speed.
to reduce the speed, they shoot out these charged nucleuses,
Okay.
but they operate. It's a very light thrust, but very efficient. So I don't know, but I think you know, maybe it's worth exploring some more.
There you are. Retro, yeah. To technology to retard the speed of a spinning body around the Earth. There you are. I should apply for a NASA grant.
Definitely.
Yeah. Anyway, 1 hour, 20 minutes. I think we can call it a
Yes.
day. I have
Okay.
bored the audience with enough of my fairy tales.
You have not been boring. It's been extremely interesting, and I think we should have regular chats like this. Maybe not recorded and
Yeah,
over Zoom, but maybe in person over a cup of tea,
yeah,
chit-chatting.
yeah. That's right. Exchange of ideas. It's always good thing for the mind. Keep on churning. Exchange of thoughts and ideas. Yeah, why not? Well, we shall have another session maybe in a few weeks' time then.
I like it.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much. I hope you have a good night.
Same to you. Bonne nuit. La Arrivederci. Shabakar, whatever you want me to say. I've lived, a friend of mine was complaining, I have to go to that country, learn the language. I said, look, I've been through 7, 8 countries. I try to pick up the language. And I use words in my, what you call messages, okay? And the guy said, Saadat, how many languages do you know? You seem to know a lot of language. I said, no, I just know a few words of every language and write them down just to impress the people, and it seems to be working.
That's awesome.
Yeah, just a few words of every language. It impresses. It's also to establish a rapport with the local populace if you know the language. They appreciate it.
So how let's go with Portuguese?
Sorry?
Portuguese.
For
Uh,
what?
Good night.
I think they still say ciao like the Italiano.
Ciao.
Or
Okay.
buon nuit, or good night. Okay then.
Okay. Ciao.
Ciao then. Ci vediamo. I'll see you then. Okay then. Thanks then. Bye bye.
Bye bye.